Welcome to This Explainer. Go ahead and dust off your old, tea-stained diaries and get comfortable because today we are going on a seriously hilarious, incredibly nostalgic journey. We're going to flip through those collective childhood memories that make up the ultimate school survival guide.
But before we dive in, I really want you to ask yourself, do you remember the smell of fresh newspaper covers on brand new notebooks, perfectly mixed with the unmistakable, lingering scent of leaky hair oil? I mean, if that instantly transports you back to the beautifully absurd realities of navigating Indian high schools, well, you are definitely in the right place.
So here's the table of contents for our nostalgia survival guide today. First, bus legends. Second, geometry boxes and pickles. Third, the single notebook strategy. Fourth, seating wars. Fifth, washroom clubs. And wrapping it all up, Nani's house and suspensions.
Okay, Chapter 1, Bus Legends and the Daily Commute. Let's jump right into that epic morning journey and the absolute unsung heroes behind the wheel.
You know who I'm talking about. Guys like Abdul and Rafiq. Now, these guys weren't just your average drivers, right? They were the ultimate drift kings of high school commuting. They had this magical, frankly terrifying ability to drift a massive, rattling yellow school bus and somehow squeeze it through impossibly tight village lanes. Rafiq, the conductor, could confidently navigate that bus out of a space so tight you'd swear a bicycle wouldn't fit, all while boldly claiming there was enough room to park 4 buses.
And their dedication? Honestly, it was next level. Picture this actually playing out. A local village is completely flooded. The kids have already given up on the day, literally undressing from their uniforms because of the pouring rain. But Abdul and Rafiq? No way. They drive the bus straight through the floodwaters, pick up the kids, navigate the entire disaster zone, only to arrive at the gates and find out the school is actually closed due to the flood. You just can't make this stuff up.
All right, Chapter 2, Geometry Boxes and Pickles, the Village Kids. Let's look at how their fascinating habits translated into the classroom.
Remember getting your very first geometry box? It really highlights the sheer chaotic ingenuity we all had. I mean, the expected use of a geometry compass, drawing perfect, neat circles. The actual use? Absolute unregulated chaos. Kids were using the sharp point to drill holes into plastic water bottle caps so they could drink from them, dismantling the entire thing, and practically building little classroom weapons to launch things at each other.
And you didn't even need to ask where the real legendary kids were from. You could spot them a mile away by the perpetually leaking hair oil just soaking right through the front pocket of their backpacks. And their lunch? Oh, it was a dedicated, unchangeable daily diet inside a steel lunchbox. Exactly 3 parathas and a single, solitary slice of pickle. Every single day. Honestly, it was a true masterclass in consistency.
Moving on to Chapter 3, the single notebook strategy. This was a highly efficient, yet completely chaotic approach to note-taking that literally drove teachers insane.
The real kicker here is the sheer audacity of the number 120. See, instead of carrying heavy bags with different books for every class, these geniuses would use a single 120-page notebook for absolutely everything. The strategy was basically foolproof. Wrap it in an old newspaper, accidentally cover it in tea stains, and then miraculously partition those 120 pages into 5 different subjects using the tiniest handwriting imaginable so it wouldn't fill up too fast.
But here's the absolute funniest juxtaposition. These exact same kids, who literally couldn't be bothered to buy a second notebook, were simultaneously involved in intense, adult-like family land disputes back in their villages. They'd be shouting things like, "Stay in your limits, I want the full property." They'd have these massive dramatic feuds with their uncles, complete with heavy swearing, only to immediately apologize because an older sister stepped in to act as the family referee. They were essentially fighting Supreme Court-level battles while failing to do their basic math homework.
Which brings us to Chapter 4, Classroom Drama and Seating Wars. Time to talk about relentless rumors and those dreaded boy-girl seating arrangements.
The social politics in high school were just brutal. You'd constantly hear whispers of, "Don't look at her, bhai ki bandi hai," which basically translates to, "She's my bro's girl." If a guy simply shared a WhatsApp status and made it visible to one specific girl, massive rumors would explode instantly. It was so intense that when fed-up teachers punished the class by forcing boys and girls to sit next to each other, the girls would defensively use their bulky school bags as a literal barricade on the desk just to avoid any accidental contact with the quote-unquote predators sitting next to them.
Now, if you did get stuck in one of those forced arrangements, you had to rely on an incredible 3-step survival routine. You had exactly a 30-second window between periods when one teacher left and the next one arrived.
Step 1, the period bell rings. Step 2, grab your heavy bag instantly. Step 3, sprint away like an Olympic athlete to reclaim a seat with your actual friends. The next teacher would walk in to find half the class panting and completely out of breath. Meanwhile, girls who couldn't sit together were having full-blown conversations across the classroom just by reading each other's lip syncing.
All right, Chapter 5, the Washroom Dance Club. Honestly, this was one of the most bizarre phenomena of high school.
The second the teachers weren't looking, the restrooms transformed into an exclusive VIP lounge. Picture a massive line in the washroom, but not to actually use the facilities, oh no. It was to meticulously set wet hair using round combs. And over in the corner, a huddled group having a full-blown dance party to a smuggled smartphone playing music out loud. When they inevitably got cornered by the teachers right outside the door, they'd throw out absolute panic-induced excuses like, "We are just styling our hair with round combs," or my personal favorite, "We are studying from YouTube." Yeah, right.
Finally, Chapter 6, Nani's House and Suspensions. Let's explore the ultimate forms of high school escapism. Let's trace the disastrous, predictable timeline of taking leave to visit Nani's or Grandma's house. Every time, you'd borrow a friend's notebook, claiming you'd study during the trip to impress the relatives. The reality? The notebook remained totally untouched and usually just got forgotten there. Here's the actual timeline. Day 1, you sit in the auto rickshaw to leave, and Nani immediately starts crying. Day 2, Mom spends literally half the day just consoling Nani. Day 3, the auto driver openly mocks the whole family's melodrama. Actual study time? Absolutely zero.
And what about the absolute worst punishment the school could hand out? Suspension. But you know what's really interesting? How this concept completely flipped reality. Because suspension wasn't actually a punishment. It was a highly coveted reward. You were basically living the ultimate retirement life right alongside your grandfather. You didn't have to write leave applications, there were no teachers asking where you were, you just sat at home, peacefully scrolling on your supposedly confiscated phone, completely uninterrupted. It was literally top-tier relaxation.
And that wraps up our explainer for today. Looking back at the Drift King bus drivers, the geometry box weapons, and those wild 30-second seating scrambles, which chapter of this beautifully chaotic diary matches your own school memories? Keep that question in mind, and hey, maybe share those stories with your old benchmates today. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible, nostalgic survival guide. Keep learning,